Okay, so we came up with a training a day agenda. Now we have an 8-hour session, so this will all fit in that time frame. Okay, so we would do a KWL chart to start, which what do you know, what do you want to know, what have you learned, just to see where each employee is at the start of the day. So we would welcome them, we would talk about the company background, the purpose of today's training, we would introduce the electronic communications to them. And after having discussed all of that stuff, we would give them a 3-2-1 formative assessment on electronic communications. And then we would reteach if necessary, or if everything was good to go, we would introduce the phone systems to them. Talk about those for a while. After that was discussed, we would do a learning log formative assessment on the phone system, reteach again if necessary, or move on to policies and procedures for both the electronic communication and the phone system. And then we would have a recap of the material that we've covered thus far, and then give everybody an exit slip before they broke for lunch. So then they would go to lunch, we would look over the exit slips, we would go over the learning logs, the KWLs and the 3-2-1, so all the formative assessments thus far, to kind of see where everybody is at when they are at lunch, so that we can address how we're going to structure and format the second half of the day. So they would come back from their lunch. We would do a quick recap of the material, focusing on the things that people had questions about and so forth. And then we would do a, oh my gosh. After we recapped the materials and answered all the questions, we would give them a 5 to 10 minute break, so that way they could ask us questions. We would do a Q&A before the assessment, and then we would tell them you will have a summative assessment. It's your knowledge, you have to pass this to move forward, blah, blah, blah. So that way they can have 5 to 10 minutes to ask us anything that they absolutely want to, anything that they're confused about, so that way they have the most potential for success, because we feel that's very important. So then we would do the summative assessment, which would be a test or a quiz, and then we would go into like on-the-job hypothetical situations. We would do some role-playing, and then we would have a peer review or a self-review, a formative assessment there on what would you do, or what if this happened, that kind of thing. We would reteach and reinforce the electronic communication and phone system policies and procedures. We would do more on-the-job hypotheticals and role-playing, and we would walk around the classroom and make sure that things were being accomplished, that everybody was on the same page, and so forth. We would take another break, tell them that their assessment is coming up after the break. We would have another 10 to 15 minute study session where they could ask us questions and go over anything that was still confusing to them. And then we would end with the summative assessment on electronic communications and phone system policies and procedures via a quiz or a test. And then just do an end of the day wrap up, showing them again, you know, this is why we're here, what we did, what do you have questions about, and then ask them to do a KWL again. What do you know? What do you want to know, and what did you learn? And hopefully the differences in those, we can see the progress that they made and with them moving forward. So that is our training day agenda for Team C.